Welcome to lesson 4 of Photoshop image manipulation. What I'm going to do today is look at how to make this a little bit more realistic. Now, as you can see, that if I sort of zoom in a bit, my figures, the people here just look as if they've been kind of stuck on the chair, and I don't look realistic on the floor down here as well. And the reason for this is because I'm not interacting with the background, so I'm not casting a shadow, for example. Okay, and there's lots of little touch-ups. You can see I've got to do a little bit of touching up around the side edges of my model around here. You see I've got a bit of an edge to that where I cut them out, and up here probably as well. I can see that it's not 100%. Now, the other thing that you might find with um, some of your characters is that the hairline might not be 100% realistic. Now, that's something that you can do using the eraser tool. So you can just pick the eraser tool, make sure you're on whatever layer that you want to manipulate. So if I'm on this one, you can see I can have this one here. Layer 4, so this would be this person. So see, I've got with the eraser tool, you can change the opacity to be less, and you can change the type of brush as well over here to get the right kind of brush for you. So for example, I could have a kind of pencil brush, and I can make it kind of, maybe actually I'll change that to just the brush, and you can soften it. So I've got a softened one here, and then obviously if I zoom in a little bit and make that a little bit bigger, I can just get rid of that hardened edge a little bit, so it doesn't stand out. Okay, and that's quite important, just to make sure that you do that on your character. Now you will notice with the layers that when I'm doing this, I'm not actually affecting any of this over here, and the reason for that is because I've got the separate layers. Now the other thing that you might find helpful is naming your layers, because at the moment I've just got layers 3, 3, 4, and so on. So what I might do is if I click on layer 3, just turn it on and off, see where it is. Okay, so that's top left. Therefore, just going to call this left on chair, and I can reorder them as well. So it's this one there 2, there 1 is me in the middle, so I need to put that up there. Middle on chair, and just really does help you keep yourself organized. And that's just double clicking on the text in the layer. Right on chair, and last one right on floor. Okay, so there you have it. Right, so you need to use, obviously with the eraser tool, you need to continue on with fixing any of your models. You can continue to reduce the brush size, and you can use the square bracket as well. The square brackets will let you reduce your brush size. Let's see, I can just, and if I hold shift, I can do straight lines to delete things as well. It's quite useful. Okay, so that's coming out quite nicely. Just fixing that up. Just in that little corner there. Just removing those bits. Oops. Remember, if you make any mistakes, you can do Control Z on the first mistake. But if you needed to go back a couple of steps, you just bring up your history panel over here, okay, and then you can see where everything that you want to fix up. Square brackets just to reduce that a little bit. And I'll continue on with that, just fixing this one is the worst one, I think. Just must have feathered it a little bit too much and kind of included a bit of the background, but these things can happen. Now, the other thing, depending on your model, you might want to fix the hair, and you can do exactly the same thing with the razor tool. And if you have kind of hair that's not very straight, my hair is more straight, so it's easy. It was easier. I didn't really have to cut anything out, to be honest. But you might have a situation where you might want to cut out little bits, and you can take little snippets, sort of make the eraser tool very small, and then just sort of cut at it a little tiny bit, just in places where you feel it's necessary to do that. You can see I'm doing that little bit of effect there. Okay, now the next thing that you want to do is obviously make sure that your model or your models fit on this sort of chair properly. So if I look at the middle chair now, the way it's been cut, it's kind of a bit straight there, so I might want to raise a little bit of that as well, just sort of bring that up a tiny bit there, just around those edges, and you can see that's a little bit better. Okay, and you might need to fix, might not need to fix too much, but you might need to do that a little bit just around the edges. Here I might have it on left on chair, I'd have it so it's just come down a little bit, so you can see that. Okay, and that one looks okay, I suppose. Might just need to do a little bit right on chair. Right on floor underneath. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty much sorted with my characters now. Now, the only other thing that you might need to do as well is you might need to get this to start looking as if he's interacting with the background. Now, the way to do that is to use the burn tool. So the burn tool, and you'll need to find it on here, will be underneath the dodge tool that you've got over here. So there's burn. Now, with this, you've got square brackets to reduce it and so on as well. Where we're going to add the burn is to the background layer, and you can see this is quite bright. This surface of the chair is quite bright. So where we need to cast a shadow, we probably need to use highlights and maybe the exposure, bring it down to say 10% roughly, or 12%, and then you need to start adding a bit of a burn to that background. Okay, and you could do the same obviously down here as well. Now, if you find any issues with doing any of the burn, you can change it to midtones as well, and it could be come out a little bit stronger. You could change it to shadows, and it's darker again. So you want to play around with that and add basically a nice shadow just underneath. And what I would suggest is that you look at where you've got, so I'm just starting to do it now. You want to look at basically where you've got shadow casting here. You see it's going off to the right just a little bit. So I'm just going to do mine a little bit to the right there. And if it's too much, just be careful not to do too much. And I'm going to do the same, just darken this area a bit. Darken it down here. Just a bit around the edges of the hands. The most important one is around, I suppose, here really. And that straight away you can see it starts to look just that little bit more realistic. Okay, so work on that and follow the next lesson then when you're ready.